on you.
The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the masses is an important element in a democratic society. We are governed, our minds are molded, our tastes form, our ideas suggested, largely by men we have never heard of. They give us the illusion of choosing between 2 or 3 pre-selected paths, while the real direction remains in invisible hands. Hello, Louis Herms here. You probably know me from ScrewBigGov, The Truth Tour, or as that We the People guy. My heart is in exposing the deepest corruption, child sex slavery, the medical mafia, and rolling out real fixes for our biggest issues. I know speaking this truth loud could hurt my campaign chances, especially with conservative media gatekeepers in the mix. But honestly, this isn't about my run. It's about blowing the lid off of a massive conspiracy that's changing how we see our supposed allies in this war. We're drowning right now in what I'm calling the Psyop of silence. This whole operation is crafted to steer our thinking, control our actions, and keep us addicted, craving the next hit. It's pure clinical Stockholm syndrome, where we end up loving the very system holding us captive. It sure feels like we're being manipulated on an epic grand scale that most can't even fathom. Looks to me like the top conservative media giants are grabbing our attention, eating up our precious time, and purposely steering us away from the stories that matter most. That's the old hidden hand trick. Pay attention to the left hand while the right hand is doing the dirty work. We're about to rip the veil clean off, exposing a cancer rotting America's heart from the inside. And yeah, in my strong opinion, these so-called conservative outlets are complicit in the pain, deaths, and outright enslavement of thousands, if not millions of innocent people. In fact, Charlie Kirk alluded to this just weeks before his tragic assassination.
The media has done a very, I would say, effective job at trying to whitewash all the crimes that happened during COVID.
The media you trust most, Fox News, OAN, Newsmax, Epoch Times, Gateway Pundit, The Daily Wire, high-profile conservative podcasters, influencers, and social media accounts, do they truly have our best interests at heart? A few might, but the vast majority of popular accounts, absolutely not. They're positioned as our warriors against the radical left, the real truth warriors in this ocean of lies. But they're not merely missing the mark. Many are deliberately kicking the ball in the wrong direction, far away from events and truths that could completely reshape our nation and the world. These stories we've witnessed ourselves are screaming for outrage, massive action, and real accountability. Over the next stretch here, we're going to lay bare some absolutely seismic events that most of these conservative fake news outlets have completely ignored or deeply buried. Are the Marxists mainstream and these conservative outlets really just two sides of the same counterfeit coin? If the end game is keeping us busy, hiding the critical stories, fueling division so conquering can come easy, then yes, without a doubt. It's a total illusion of choice, tickling our ears with partial truths while our minds go numb, our eyes glazed over. Is this conservative fake news diversion? Just bad prioritizing, money-motivated storytelling, or full-on controlled opposition? Bad prioritizing implying they're clueless. No, they're far too smart for that. Financial incentives pulling focus to less threatening spots and away from the fires that could burn the house down? Yes, at times. Controlled opposition? Let's break down the definition clearly, then you decide for yourself.
Controlled opposition means a person, group, or movement that seems to fight the establishment or official lies, but is actually secretly run, funded, or manipulated by that same power to contain, discredit, or, I'd say, pacify true resistance and keep folks calm.
Here's a perfect example. Which outlet first called Arizona for Biden in 2020, shattering your trust?
This is a big development.
Yeah.
The Fox News Decision Desk is calling Arizona for Joe Biden. That is a big get for the Biden campaign.
Fox was the most trusted mainstream source for conservatives then. Classic controlled opposition play. Build trust, grab massive appeal, then betray us at the key moment. What if I lay out proof that much of conservative media is actually more dangerous to real conservatives than the open Marxist agenda? Let me break it down. With outlets like MSNBC or CNN, we know the snake's coiled at the front door, venom ready to strike. But with these so-called trusted conservative sources, we let them in, think they're feeding us the full truth. Yet, they might give 80% real info while burying the explosive 20%, the 20% that could flip everything we know. That makes conservative fake news like a rhino, Republican in name only, the snake that crawls into your bed at night. So, which snake scares you more? The one hissing at the door or the one warming up under your sheets, ready to strike when you're asleep? Let's start with one of the most tragic, heartbreaking stories out there. A true patriotic Gold Star mom was the Mesa County clerk in Colorado, responsible for overseeing and securing the 2020 election data. Her sacred duty was to protect that information, make sure it was preserved right, but she was ordered by higher-ups to ignore protocol, close everything without proper backups. It reeks of a cover-up. She stands firm, refuses, and suddenly becomes perhaps the single most credible whistleblower on the entire 2020 election steel. What happens next? The full weight of the corrupt system slams down. Indicted on bogus charges, slandered endlessly, and a blatantly corrupt judge sentences this 70-year-old grandma to 9 years in prison on state crimes. Pure injustice. In jail, she has been abused. Solitary confinement for months, denied proper medical care, coughing blood. Now, as a past lung cancer patient, that's a concern. Barely any blankets in a cold cell where temperatures fell to the 40s. She's treated worse than most violent criminals. So, President Trump steps up multiple times, posting videos and truths, shining light on this nightmare. Then, listening to the people advisors and his attorney Peter Tickton, Trump announces a pardon for Tina in December 2025. But like I warned it might, Colorado's deep state sewer rats block it, claiming state crimes aren't covered by federal pardon, keeping her locked up.
And frankly, with a governor that won't allow our wonderful Tina to come out of a jail, in a high-intensity jail, because she caught people cheating on an election, and they said she was cheating. She wasn't cheating. She went over, she looked at one of the election scams going on, and because she did that, they put her in jail for 9 years.
Even if you're not all in on Tina's story, even if you dislike President Trump, you must admit that this is one of the most compelling, outrageous injustices in decades. She could be under house arrest while the courts iron this out. Tina is potentially the keystone to proving widespread election tampering a Capitol-level offense, the one hill the parasites will die on defending. So, where, oh where is the conservative fake news on this? Run the numbers yourself. Fox, barely a mention before the pardon. OAN, silence. Newsmax, one quick buried segment. Epoch Times, nothing substantial. As of this film's production, Tina's still suffering behind bars. We pray that true justice prevails. Why would media we trust ghost this? Doesn't add up at all, unless they're secretly playing for the opposing team. It's downright sad, and it's infuriating. All right, moving on to another life-altering catastrophe that the mere mention of has gotten thousands banned from platforms, bankrupted families, destroyed reputations just for speaking out. Conservative press barely touched the early truths. PCR tests cranked to cycle thresholds, giving massive false positives. The flu mysteriously disappearing. Ivermectin smeared as horse-paste conspiracy, and today, quietly disclosed as effective and approved, well after concerns of COVID have waned. Hospitals raked in huge incentives, major bonuses for COVID diagnosis, positives, admissions, ventilators, remdesivir protocols, and even listing COVID on death certificates. One single patient could net over $100,000 in government payouts. Do you think that with these massive financial incentives, we were getting true diagnostic and care that was best for the patients? Impossible. And millions suffered for it. Whistleblower nurses, doctors were speaking up. They were fired, harassed, threatened, licenses revoked, some jailed. Think Robert Young, think Judy Mikovits. Others suspiciously dead. But the real monster story, the one buried deep, is the avalanche of side effects and alleged deaths tied directly to the COVID jabs. In fairness to conservative Gateway pundit, they did have an article in December 2022 that shows a 4,070% increase in miscarriages and stillbirths since mRNA rollout. Official numbers from the CDC, around 85 million Americans boosted at least once. VAERS, the official reporting system, says 1.7 million adverse events, which would be headaches, fatigue, or worse, were reported. 350,000 serious hospitalizations, and about 40,000 reported deaths. That's roughly 1 in 40 boosted facing reaction or death. Huge red flag. But everyone in medicine knows VAERS is grossly underreported. Experts estimate 1 to 5% capture rate, maybe 20% tops being generous. To be fair, we will use the 20% model. So that would make adverse events skyrocket to 8.5 million. That's 10% of boosted affected. It's likely higher. Hospitalizations to 1.75 million. And deaths in the United States potentially over 200,000. One gone for every 400 boosted. Massive. Personally, young healthy guy loses leg to clot post-jab. Multiple turbo cancers exploding. 2 guys under 40 dropping dead jogging. Teen heart attacks on the field. Myocarditis. Diagnoses everywhere. Folks walking around with glaze over their eyes as if androids without the God spark anymore. And that's just what my wife and I have seen. See, before 2020, we heard 0 issues like this. Anecdotally, I truly believe the jab took my mom's life. But she wouldn't count in any official tally, even with the generous VAERS adjustments. See, my mom did have a lifetime heart condition. She had a hole in her heart, which she had repaired a couple times. And that's why this is important. Her cardiologist of 30 years held a meeting the last time she had a pig valve replacement. And he said to the whole family that this woman would never have a blood clot. 30 years, and he said she's had the cleanest blood that he's ever seen. Okay, fast forward, she took the vax and she took 2 boosters, I believe. And sure enough, she was in the hospital dying. And I asked the resident doctor at the time what happened. And he said, quote, "She is filled with blood clots. There's nothing we can do." said, well, that's interesting, because her cardiologist of 30 years said she would never have a blood clot. What do you think that was from? He stuttered, walked away, and that was the end of that conversation. He couldn't be pressed on it. So, these are the issues that we're seeing across the country, across the world. But why would the conservative fake news stay mostly silent on what should be the biggest scandal since World War II? Finally, in late 2025, the conservative fake news saw a tiny uptick in their reporting, but only because an FDA internal memo admitted at least 10 child deaths tied to the shots, sparking promises of stricter rules. But that's a vast undercount of the real toll. This should be every investigative journalist's dream. This is Pulitzer gold, history-changing exposure. So why does conservative fake news virtually ignore the century's greatest cover-up? Why? And more importantly, why are you still getting your news from the outlets that are intent on manipulating you? Now, let's dive into the most tragic example of all. Statistically, the most underreported crime empire, a $1 trillion yearly monster, hundreds of thousands of victims right here in the States. The evil cartels and their networks have shifted their focus, their product, from drugs to child sex slavery. It's good business. Drugs? Sell it once. Done. A child? Sell 20 plus times daily. To them, these innocents aren't human. They're commodities just to use, abuse, then harvest the organs and discard when broken. It's the most sinister darkness imaginable. And we haven't even scratched the proven satanic element involved in this. That alone would be another blockbuster story if real media covered it. I didn't even mention adult trafficking, slave labor horrors, corrupt CPS money machine, pedophile judges protecting the system, or the foster care system turning pain into profit. It's deep, real deep. Cartels are partnering with foreign governments, U.S. banks, lawyers laundering likely $500 billion through real estate, inflating housing prices by 30%. In cities like Los Angeles and San Diego. Try getting an affordable rental there. You think this doesn't touch you? You're wrong. It ripples everywhere. Why do conservative fake news podcasters, big influencers, stay almost completely silent on what's arguably the biggest evil story since the Revolutionary War? Suppression this deep is unimaginable unless orchestrated. This corruption drills down even to the local personal level. I've learned firsthand how the bad actors strategically suppress real grassroots campaigns, mine included, and thousands before. They funnel eyes only to 2 or 3 pre-picked options, anointing their choices while blacking out the rest. Now that I'm inside the fight, it's clearer than sunlight on a cloudless day. This lines up perfectly with the classic illusion of choice strategy to control us all.
Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
Carlin is spot on. Years now, Gavin Newsom and his doom crew went full scorched earth on California. Typical move when concerned about losing a war. Even everyday Democrats are fed up with this tyranny, cheering that he is leaving. This makes California governor race one of the most pivotal, intriguing races in our nation's history. Huge demand for a true conservative in this blue state, or so-called blue state, especially with President Trump pushing hard for cleaned up elections there. At bare minimum, you'd expect this dynamic story plus the strong field of conservative candidates to dominate headlines across conservative media. But no, blackout for everybody except their chosen two. Does that sound familiar? As former team members from Secretary Kennedy's counseled me directly on, they say the conservative fake news only spotlights 2 or 3 handpicked candidates per major race, ghosting everyone else no matter how powerful their message, story, or their solutions. This is done with surgical precision. Most voters don't even know they have other options. When someone breaks through the suppression, then the fake smears stories are ready to launch, just like they did with Bobby Kennedy. Is this intentional? Is it coordinated? Is it conspiratorial? Absolutely. And it's fact. The anointed frontrunners, such as Steve Hilton or Chad Bianco, get daily conservative fake news love. But November 8th, 2025, something extraordinary happened that the controlled conservative fake news completely ignored. It was the Take Your Power Back California Governor Showdown at Awaken Church in San Marcos. 13 out of 14 conservative candidates on one stage grilled with tough, real questions. With Hilton plugged daily and OAN's Dan Ball co-hosting, you'd think massive coverage. Wrong. Total blackouts. Crickets across conservative fake news. Not one mention even after. Dan Ball helped host, yet OAN still silent. Interesting. Huge political story of the decade just vanished. Why? Because some candidates crushed it, Hilton struggled, or because I, Louis Herms, exposed taboo corruption that they won't touch. I don't know. The overwhelming feedback was that I dominated the day. It's nice and humbling. But the real issue is, why would self-proclaimed conservative champions deliberately suppress such a massive event with quality, faith-filled people-first candidates? Now, to add drama, Chad Bianco was a no-show.
Some of you have been asking me, why is Sheriff Bianco not in the house? Well, I will let you know that we actually scheduled him to be here months ago. We actually moved the date for Sheriff Bianco to be here. Unfortunately, Sheriff Bianco has declined.
In fairness, his teams say otherwise. Either way, it is still a huge untold story. California boasts one of the Earth's biggest economies, an election that could shift power worldwide. Yet total media mute from the right. Doesn't compute. Also wild, coordinated loud pushes months early to force pick one of 2 candidates, screaming, "Don't split the vote." It's a pure psyop. Good people are ditching God-given discernment, parroting deep state lines instead. This is textbook CIA KGB playbook. Goes all the way back 2,500 years, where Plato warned, and so is Machiavelli, Chomsky, Bernays, built their careers on this. By now, you probably see clearly I'm onto something real. What does this Mossad operator have to say?
We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors. We're the producers. We're the main actors. The world is our stage.
This is Mossad's old office. Its motto, from Proverbs 24:6, says in so many words, wage war through deception and trickery, kind of like the CIA's smoke and mirrors.
So, who's masterminding this ancient, most effective psyop? Many point fingers to CIA, FBI, MI6, KGB, the Jesuits, Israel, China, Five Eyes Alliance, 3 city-states, or even the 13 bloodline families. Historically, all could be plausible suspects. Ah, but hold on. What if there's a massively funded three-letter agency barely 1% of Americans ever heard of? A public-facing government website, but all the real work hidden deep in the shadows. What if that shadowy beast is the Senior Executive Service, better known as... Deep inside the federal beast lurks the Senior Executive Service, a vast network of thousands of unelected overlords operating with zero real oversight. Officially born in 1978 through Jimmy Carter's Executive Order and Civil Service Reform Act. But whispers and alternative digs would suggest that George H.W. Bush, CIA Director for 75 through 77, helped seed its foundations, tying it straight into that New World Order web. Bush, a supposed Carter rival, likely collaborated with him and his team on this. Huge clue is that we're fed illusions of left-right division. It's really two sides, same coin. Bush Sr.'s infamous 1990 New World Order speech, 11 years to the day before 9/11 under Bush Jr.
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order.
It's chilling. Numbers and symbology mean something to these arrogant pricks. Dick Cheney steps in, mastermind post 9/11 power consolidations, his network allegedly merging SES with military-industrial complex muscle. It does seem now that there may be NORAD ops out of Cheyenne Mountain, running quiet countermoves against the SES global control. This shadow government hides behind secrecy. Peek at their bland official website for a clue. It's the thin veil of fake legitimacy. For decades now, critics scream about SES unchecked power. Career embeds across 75-plus agencies built resistance to any president that may not be under their control. Protections making them basically unfireable. If a government worker, politician, NGO head, or media figure slacks or sabotages what appears to be their duty, we can reasonably suspect they get extra dollars from the SES that actually exceeds their standard pay. Therefore, they look away. They divert from what they are tasked to do. They serve the master that pays them the most. They claim apolitical, but really, it's about raw control and domination. Operation Mockingbird is not just liberal media. I know this hits conservatives hard. O'Reilly, Hannity, Bear on Fox, clues just staring us down. Who truly runs SES? That's the trillion-dollar question. Whomever it is seems that they have puppeted Obama to purge and replace thousands before Obama left. He actually installed an additional 6,000 anti-Trump loyalists as a stay-behind army. Obama's SES explosion created that entrenched force needed as they painted Trump as a Russian asset nonstop, a calculated smear via Obama, Brennan, and CIA links to lock in deep state continuity. The late Boone Cutler would tell you, this isn't mere politics. It's fifth generational warfare to destroy whatever is left of our republic. Come 2025, DNI Tulsi Gabbard declassifies bombshells.
There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't. The report that we released today shows in great detail how they carried this out.
President, yesterday you've inferred that the former president helped lead a coup. Based on what you now see, do you believe President Obama is guilty of treason?
The expressed intent and what followed afterward can only be described as a years-long coup and a treasonous conspiracy against the American people, our republic, and an attempt to undermine President Trump's administration.
Proof Obama and his crew, Clapper, Brennan, Comey, directed a bogus intelligence community assessment claiming Russia was rigged for Trump. All fueling years of smears, Mueller witch hunts, impeachments, and more. From private insider interviews I've done, tons of three-letter agencies, politicians, executives, government workers, media personalities pull double pay from where? From SES, far above official salaries. Even retired senators keep SES stipends flowing, chained to the machine. With President Trump's NORAD quietly countering SES worldwide, we're in a full shadow war for America's very soul. In Trump's first term, claims are he axed 10,000 SES holdouts. Now, Biden's auto pen likely refilled the ranks quickly. Are there ties to Zuckerberg, Winklevoss twins, Bitcoin web, crypto control? Speculations run hot. President Trump is pushing hard again to restructure the SES, but with tens of thousands funded outside the government, it ain't easy. The biggest clue to this shadow war is that on President Trump's first day in office of his second term, he signed the Restoring Accountability for Career Senior Executives Memorandum, which rips away the protections of the Senior Executive Service. Those with eyes to see, this may be the beginning of the end of the SES fortress. Or better yet, the start of we the people taking our power back. At this point, you may ask, how do I know which media is conservative fake news? Simple answer. If they're dodging every major issue we covered today, they're likely that snake in your bed. And the bite's coming soon, right in your asparagus. The evil ones want us herded like sheep to slaughter. They need meek meant strength when there's adversity. If we understood that Moses was meek, that Jesus called himself meek, I believe he was flipping over tables. Does that sound like the standard definition of meek? No. We have been manipulated at the highest level we possibly can. Biblical meek aren't weak pushovers. They're power under perfect control, like a war horse reined but ready to charge. We are the true meek. Bottom line, the illusion of choice is one of history's oldest, slickest power tools. Are you done playing the rigged game? It's time we flip the script. Play by Lion's rules, your rules, we the people rules. God already won this battle. The parasite controllers know it deep down, but they won't surrender easy. We the people must step up, get involved, be the real solution. Are you going to keep letting conservative fake news manipulate, disrespect, use us without full truth? If so, then sadly, we deserve what we get. I understand this is a mountain of truth to swallow. I get it. So what can we actually do right now? First and huge, realize we the people are the plan. Turn focus to independent, hard-hitting truth tellers actually covering these stories. Give them support, shares, credit loud. If even one big conservative fake news outlet has the mea culpa moment and they prove to turn around their actions, then they'll reap massive rewards. The audience will flood back. For all of us, Keep your vibrations high and seek positive wins. We're entering a fresh era of raw authenticity, and people, they crave it, and they crave it bad. This is God's work, through and through. He won already. Now, we the people must get to work so we can reap the harvest. We've absolutely got this. God bless you all. God bless America.